How we doing, everyone? Sal Scatino, licensed psychotherapist and success motivational speaker here at Community Mental Health Associates, otherwise known as CMHA. So the concept, theme, and acronym in which I want to share with you today is one in which was created by Martin Seligman, the father of positive psychology and the author of bestsellers Flourish and Authentic Happiness. This concept is merited behind so much empirical and validating evidence to the extent that it was brought to the TED stage. The TED stage, the stage where you present ideas worth spreading to illustrate how one can cultivate a psychology of success, right? How one can transition from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, right? How one can disengage from those constructs of society, parents, school, what have you, friends, to create a more controlling environment for yourselves, right? To break from those paradigms and to start putting in place things in which are within our power, right? Not saying that we need to have, this college education, this GPA, this many degrees in order to create these goals or this trajectory of life and this fulfillment and satisfaction, right? It breaks down those paradigms. It allows you to no longer be confined by those things and allow you to take back the helm of life, right? The helm of your boat and your ship, being that captain, not other things outside in our external environment, things in which we have no power behind. It allows you to really identify the things you can control as opposed to the things you cannot. All right, so let's just dive right into it. It's the acronym PERMA. The first part of the acronym, P, stands for positive emotions, right? So emotions in general are our body's way of communicating to us to tell us whether we are being threatened, rewarded, and everything in between. So a positive emotion is one which invokes joy, happiness, fulfillment, excitement, love, right? We release those chemicals known as oxytocin, endorphins, dopamine, which is part of our reward system, because we are so happy and engaged with whatever we're doing that essentially nothing else exists in that moment, right? So we have to be aware of one thing, though. Our brain is always going to default to our negative emotions because those are the ones in which we're cultivated for such a long time to be our means of survival. How we can basically survive in our environment, for lack of better words. That fight or flight response in our brain, that's always the default, and that's always the one that we focus most heavily on. But we have the prefrontal cortex now, right? That cortex allows us to stop, think, and really identify what's a betterment. What are the things worth focusing on? Do we have to focus on the fight at the party? Or can we focus on that group of laughing people or the people that are finding engagement with one another, or not engagement, I'm sorry, but are just, building chemistry and connection and bond with one another. You have that choice. So we want to build that awareness that you could start focusing more heavily on those positive emotions. Next, engagement. Engagement is that state of flow, right? The state in which we are completely engulfed in something to the extent that nothing else exists. You are completely present in the moment, meaning you are not crippled or encompassed of future anxiety-provoking thoughts, right? You're not brought down by the depressive failures of the past. You 100% and authentically in the here and the now. That's when the confines and constructs of time decimated and no longer in existence. It's when you get lost in things such as woodworking, time spent with friends and family, reading about something that is just wildly inspirational or allows us to learn and really tap into our self-interest or just interest, in broad and, learning new things. Next, relationships, specifically positive relationships. So I want to come at this from an educational standpoint. What's a positive relationship and what's a negative relationship? A negative relationship is one in which you leave feeling depleted, feeling exhausted and drained. One in which you were giving all and getting none. right? A positive relationship is one in which you feel inspired, invigorated, excited when you leave that person. You talk about ideas. You talk about abstract concepts and meanings, things outside your scope of knowledge where you challenge your sense of self, right? You challenge yourself to the point that you get out of that comfort zone. You enter that optimal level of performance where you feel a little uncomfortable, but you learn so much. And you start to gravitate to this concept and mindset of abundance and unlimited capacity with within your ability to think and learn and feel and experience. Next is meaning and purpose, right? I love to use this concept whenever a client or patient is devoid of motivation, right? I think this is the most important component of motivation, is understanding what you're doing it for. Because if you're spending 60, 70 hours a week doing something and you have no idea as the point or reason behind it, and that doesn't get you excited, doesn't appeal to a greater purpose or meaning, then you're not going to want to do it, right? I think Simon Sinek, he puts it so well. He says, I'm just going to read right off of my phone right now. He says, working for something we don't care about is called stress, but working for something that we love is called passion, right? So understand what's going to create and cultivate that passion is knowing what you're doing it for. It really is, at the end of the day. And the person who illustrates this best is Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, right? He's the psychiatrist that created logotherapy. It's an existential therapeutic intervention that allows us to identify our why, right? The quote in which he uses to simplify it so wonderfully is, she who has a why to live for can bear with almost any how. Meaning, if you have a purpose, if you have an understanding as to the reasoning you're doing something, then no matter what happens in your external environment, you can always fall back on that to push you through the failures, the setbacks, the struggles, right? He used that as the framework to allow him to survive and even thrive at times at Auschwitz, right? The single worst concentration camp in all of World War II. And if that's not profound, I don't know what is. Next is accomplishment and achievement, right? This is kind of tying it all together. This is allowing ourselves to say, hey, I put X amount of time into this project, this thing, and I got this in return, right? That's going to build your self-confidence. It's going to increase your self-worth. And it's going to allow you to create a more positive self-image as to who you are, because you have evidence to say that what you did, the work that you put in, gave you results, right? It gave you something, and it gave you an accolade, a takeaway, saying that, hey, it was for something. And hey, you didn't need all these things that other people need in order to feel this way or in order to accomplish this thing. That is powerful. That's a lot of control right there. Right? So everyone, I hope, like I'm always kind of reiterating at the end of all my videos, I hope this was helpful. Hope this was useful. I hope you developed an understanding how to take these themes, this concept, into your everyday functioning habits and rituals so that you can start painting the window to the world around you in a way that it aligns with your values, your morals, your principles of success, of fulfillment, of betterment, of appealing to something that is outside of just your locus of self and appeals to a greater purpose, right? Because that's going to be the thing that really pulls you to whatever you're working towards. I'm so excited about it. So thank you guys so much for your time. I hope there was some takeaways here. If not, always feel free to check us out on Instagram or Facebook at CMHA Counseling and ask any questions or impose any topics that you think would be worth discussing. And I would love to breach any of those themes or concepts, or just kind of giving more insight and understanding behind certain things. All right, thank you guys so much for your time, and have a great rest of your day.